Okay, what is rent abatement? Rent abatement allows a commercial tenant to withhold rent payments to their landlord for a period of time. When is rent abatement offered? Rent abatement is first of all defined in your lease. If you don't have rent abatement clause in your lease, that means you don't have the option to get it. Rent abatement is typically offered when there's such significant damage to the space that a business rents that they can't bring in customers or they can't operate their business out of the location. Sometimes it's called free rent, and this is typically used as an incentive to get a tenant to sign a longer term lease. So some of the typical rent abatement scenarios include fire damage or smoke damage, severe broken glass, flooding that causes floor damage or drywall damage, things of that nature. And if it's a free rent incentive, it's typically offered at the beginning of a lease. So why is rent abatement called free rent? Well, rent abatement and free rent are terms that are sometimes used interchangeably. Usually this is done when a tenant does not have to pay rent at the beginning of the lease. And in some cases, it's all about semantics. I mean, when you ask for something for free, the other opponent or the other side typically looks at that as like you're overreaching. So if you call it abatement, sometimes it sounds a little more benign. But typically, a tenant will ask for rent abatement for really good reasons, such as paying for moving expenses, paying for build-out costs, kind of ramping up their business operations. If it's a new retail user, like a bar or restaurant, they might need time to get activity and bring customers in, things of that nature. And so, whether it's called rent abatement or free rent, in both cases, the tenant does not have to pay rent for a period of time. So some of the reasons that landlords offer free rent to tenants, the number one reason is to offer an incentive for a tenant to sign a lease. If there are multiple locations that a business tenant is considering, sometimes offering the free rent is what triggers someone to sign a lease with that particular property owner. And one of the reasons why landlords do it, well, a couple. One, if their property's been on the market for quite some time, or they don't think they can lease it in a short period of time, it doesn't hurt to get a tenant in if they're going to have to wait anyways. And so you might as well give some free rent up front, knowing that you have rent payments coming in after that free rent period. Is free rent offered to all tenants? The answer is no. Some of it depends on market conditions, but typically free rent is offered to high credit established businesses that want to sign a long-term lease. If it's a business startup that doesn't have a proven track record and the landlord's uncertain if they'll even survive the entire term of their lease as far as staying in business, they're more reluctant to offer free rent, because when free rent is offered, the idea is that they get it back over the term of the lease. And so if the business isn't there, they can't get their money back for the free rent period. In a downturn in the economy, when there's more space available in the market, sometimes that's loosened up. Sometimes you see lower credit tenants get a free rent inducement. The flip side is also true in a hot market where there's lots of competitors for a space. Landlords are less likely to offer free rent because they have other tenants that want to sign and move in right away. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of rent abatement or free rent. My name is David Haugen with Lighthouse Commercial Real Estate. Feel free to visit our website for more insight into commercial real estate definitions and terms at lighthousecre.com. You can shoot me an email at david@lighthousecre.com or call my office line at 608-234-4848. You can also find me on LinkedIn as a CRE Guide. Thanks.